All right, Steeler fans, it is time for the mailbag segment every single Wednesday. In case you're saying, how in the hell do I get my questions answered? Well, it's simple. You find me on Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, it's right here at the bottom of the screen. If you're not, you're listening to this, it's at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. Every Tuesday morning, I put out the tweet. All you have to do is respond to that tweet, and I will answer it live here on the air on the Wednesday podcast. Let's get this started with Jeff Coons, our buddy from up north who misspells his name. Hi, Jeff. No questions from the shipyard this week. I think we're all waiting on pins and needles to see who the Steelers will select as their next punter. Thanks for the consistent content while we get inside the lab and assess the division of labor and things of that nature. Jeff, thank you very much for the kind words about the content. And I am kind of curious who the punter is going to be. Anyone but Jordan Berry. That's fine with me. Let's go to Believers. He said the Ride or Die Crew poll of the week. How do you feel about the statement? The front office will make the moves to turn this team into a playoff winner next year. Absolutely agree, somewhat agree, don't really agree, or completely disagree. I think I said absolutely agree. If this front office, Andy Weidel, Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin and company, they can duplicate what they did last year, I see no reason why this team can't not just make it to the playoffs, but actually win a game. Just my personal opinion. Let's go to Steelers Nation Australia. Our boy, Marky D from down under. He said, good day, Jeff. Who is one Steelers player or coach, past or present, you'd like to have a 5-minute conversation with? That's a really good question. That's a difficult question when you think about it. Any player, past or present, the first person that comes to mind, and it's probably because of my Monday podcast with Jim Wexel, was when he talks about Jack Lambert. I just feel like Jack Lambert is that character would be really interesting to have a 5-minute conversation with. Outside of him, I would probably go with someone like Ben Roethlisberger. I think he would tell some great stories. Maybe Troy Polamalu. That era of Steelers fandom was my pinnacle of fandom. That's when I was like a full-on fanboy. I wasn't writing. I wasn't podcasting. I just loved the team. I loved them. Those would probably be who I'd go with. Good question. Let's go to Pittsburgh Owen. He said, if Russell Wilson was available as a free agent, would you take him as a Pittsburgh Steelers QB1? I don't think the Steelers would bring him in with the promise of being a quarterback one. I think the Steelers would bring him in and say, you have the opportunity to compete for the quarterback one. And I think that's a very important, you have to differentiate there. It's very important to do that. I don't think the Steelers are going to bring in any quarterback with the guarantee of being a QB1. If Russell Wilson comes in and he actually becomes the starting quarterback, whether it's due to injury or whether it's due to him winning the job, I have no problem with that. I looked up his stats during the NFL Whip Round show that I mentioned earlier with Coach KT Smith. I was shocked. He threw for over 3,000 yards, and he only threw, I think, 8 touchdowns to 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. That's a really good year. And let's also not forget that Russell Wilson got benched in the final 2 to 3 games. So you're wondering, well, why do you only throw for 3,000 yards? That's probably why he didn't play in the final few games. I thought he had a great year. And so if he was the guy, even if it was on a 2-year contract or something like that, so be it. Let's see if they can win some games. I'm not about to argue if they can win football games. Tank, he has the next one, Steelers Tank. He said, not a question, but a statement. Found my boss is a Steeler fan. He found out his boss is a Steeler fan. He rode in my truck today, and I played him the preview, the Steeler Stat Geek, and Let's Ride. Needless to say, but y'all gained another fan because of good old Steeler Tank. Tank, that is awesome. Tank is a delivery guy, in case you didn't pick up on that. And I have to be honest, there's some great Steelers podcasts out there. And I'm not about to suggest that we are the best. Of course, I'm going to think that we're the best because I am a part of this group. But ultimately, everyone has their favorites. Sometimes to grow, it takes a grassroots movement. It takes you, the Steeler fan, telling your friends who are Steeler fans about us. They might not know us otherwise. Hey, have you ever heard of the Steel Curtain Network guys? Oh, you can follow them on YouTube. Check them out wherever you get your podcasts. You can just search Steelers. You'll find them. Check out their website, steelcurtainnetwork.com. Thank you, Tank. I appreciate what you did. If we gained one more listener, it's well worth it. I appreciate it. Haskins QB1 asked a couple. Hey, Jeff, how does all the quarterback talk affect Kenny Pickett? Because I know he hears the noise from the fans, the local media that doesn't want him as a starter next year. Will it hurt confidence or make him want to do better? Now, I can't speak for Kenny Pickett, but I will say if I was in his shoes, I would say how I would respond. I would look at my situation and I'd say, you know what? This is some BS, is what this is. And the reason why it's BS is that maybe he didn't enjoy having Matt Canada as his coordinator. Maybe he is saying that ultimately, I guess I would just want him to have a chip on his shoulder. Screw everybody. Be chippy with the media. Be chippy with the fans. You know what? That's fine. They want to bury you. Try me. I'm going to go and win the job. I'm going to win football games. And then you'll realize how good I am. And there's a lot of people that don't think that he's capable of that. Forget that. Absolutely forget that. If I'm Kenny Pickett, I am using this as 100% motivation. Motivation to go out there and prove every single doubter wrong. Will he do it? That's a different story altogether. No one knows. But that's what I would be. I don't think it would make me worse or hurt my confidence. If you don't have confidence in yourself, no one else will. I learned that a long time ago. So, if Kenny Pickett doesn't have confidence in himself, that's on him. Then he lacks a fortitude, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's go to another one from Haskins QB1. Hey, Jeff, can you share the story on how your source became your source and how did you verify he was legit? So I'm not going to tell that story. You just do this job long enough and you develop relationships. And sometimes those relationships turn into other relationships and then so on and so forth. It's kind of like the book of Genesis in the Bible. He begat, they begat him, they begat them, they begat them. And honestly, how did I know they were legit? When everything that they were telling me was 100% accurate. Now, people love to come back at me and say, Jeff, weren't you one that said that Chase Young was going to the Steelers? No. Go back and check the tape. It's still there. I didn't say that he was going to the Steelers. I said the Steelers were interested. And how can anyone say that they weren't interested? Just because they didn't sign him doesn't mean that they weren't interested and that they didn't have conversations. Please hear the words correctly because words mean something. So thank you, Haskins QB1, for the questions. I appreciate it. Jeff asks, I see Tyler Boyd's going to be available as a free agent. He could be a nice fit as a wide receiver 3. Any chance of this happening? I'd love Tyler Boyd to come in. I bring him back to Pittsburgh. He's a Pittsburgh kid. He went to Pitt from the area. It would be cool to see him back. I think he still has a lot of gas in the tank. And I think they need that type of player. I think they need that type of veteran receiver on that group. He would be a good, I think the big question would be is, what does that mean for Calvin Austin III? But you know what? I'm not about to worry about someone's feelings. You got to make the team the best it can be. And if that means bringing in Tyler Boyd, bring in Tyler Boyd. Let's go to Doc M, Southside Doc. So can you discuss the relationship between talent evaluation and development? How have the Steelers benefited or hindered in the recent years by the organization's performance in that area? It's a great question. So what is the difference between talent evaluation and then developing said talent? So I think that everyone, when they're looking at the draft, when they're looking at these prospective players, or when they're looking at free agent players as well, they're looking at this and saying, okay, what is their ceiling? Like if we were to develop them 100% fully, what is their ceiling? Well, talent evaluation is you have to be able to evaluate that talent. Then, do you have the coaches to get them to that ceiling? Now, in the last few years, I think, especially last year, I think the Steelers did a great job with talent evaluation, especially in the draft. And the development of that talent, I thought it was great. I mean, when you think about Joey Porter Jr., Broderick Jones, you think about Nick Herbig, you think about Darnell Washington. He was a contributor. You might just not in the receptions category. I think that the organization is better than where they were in the waning years of Kevin Colbert. We'll see if they can make it 2 years in a row. Great question, though. Let's go to Zach Farnsworth. He said, do you think this team will benefit more from free agents signed in the offseason or from this year's draft class? Who will have the bigger impact? Appreciate your content. Thank you, Zach. So I think that this year it's going to be more based on the draft, but I do think they are going to bring in some important pieces in free agency too. Said it before. I'll say it again. The Steelers do not like to go into a draft with a glaring need. They do not like to go into a draft knowing there's no center on the roster. They don't like that. They don't like that. That pigeonholes them. That paints them. They paint themselves into a corner. They don't like that. So I think they're going to make some free agent signings. Don't expect big splashes. I just don't think that's how the Steelers want to do business, nor do they have the cap space to do so yet. And I think that the NFL draft is still the way they're going to go. Let's go to Chris Laverty. In your opinion, what's more likely, a Deontay Johnson extension or trade? I don't think it's an extension, but I don't think it's a trade either. I have heard that this is one of those situations where I have heard that there's talk of Deontay Johnson being a hold in again. I don't know. I don't think the Steelers should fold like that. If they have someone that wants to trade for him, then trade him. But we'll have to see how that plays out. King Tibbs asks, one team need that's not being discussed much is wide receiver 3. What do you think about bringing back Juju? I'm not sure if he's still under contract in New England, but if so, would you be object to sending a late rounder for him? He's a fan favorite that brings the tenacity we need. It all depends on his medicals. I know that last year when the Steelers played the Patriots, I had a Patriots representative on, spoke to this guy before the podcast and said, man, he said, dude, the guy just can't stay healthy. He's banged up. His knee's a mess. I have no interest in bringing in an injury-prone player. And that's what Juju Smith-Schuster seems to be now. James asks, hey, Jeff, in your opinion, what is one offseason topic regarding the Steelers as a whole that's not getting enough attention? It seems we've been consumed with quarterback, center, and coaching talk so far. For me, it's the holes on the defense. No one's really talking about the defense. Yeah, we talked about Terrell Austin a little bit when he got his extension. Everything is focused on the offense. And I know it's an offensive-driven league, and everyone's looking at everyone else and saying, look at what they have, and how do we get what they have? But there's some holes on this defense. If you want me to be more specific, the Steelers' issue at inside linebacker is really troubling. Really troubling. They have healthy Landon Robertson, Mark Robinson. No Cole Holcomb. There's no guarantee he'll be ready by training camp. There's no guarantee that Quan Alexander is healthy enough or is able to come back. It's just odd. It's the oddest thing ever. I think that's probably it. For me, it's the defense. All right, Steeler fan 69. Hey, Jeff, my wife and I were having this huge argument as to whose turn it is to do laundry. Finally, I folded and threw in the towel. And then what do you call an acid with an attitude? Amino acid. Get it? 5 ants rented an apartment with 5 other ants. Now they are 10 ants. For those that might be the first time listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube, Steeler Fan 69 does this every week. He provides the comedy, the jokes, and I appreciate it. Let's go to the last question here. RJ McCollum asks, hey, Jeff, I'm on the right day this time. Last week, he asked me a question on Twitter on Wednesday. The show had run on Wednesday morning, and he asked a question for the mailbag. So he got it on the right time, the right day. Good for you, RJ. He said, do you have a free agent you're hoping to come to the Steelers this year? And then why do fathers take an extra pair of socks when they go golfing in case they get a hole in one? Oh, now even RJ's doing the dad jokes. I love it. I honestly have not thought a lot about the free agents out there. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that this week. I'll start looking in at specific positions that they need, specific players at those positions that might be good fits for the Steelers. I really don't have one specific name for you. I know a lot of people have asked me that question, like, what do you think about this, that, or the other? But yeah, I just don't have that one name. Oh, we got a late submission here. Last question from Tendercat. Hey, Jeff, just a fun, what the hell kind of question this go around. If we could trade TJ Watt straight across the board for Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, would you do it? How far would you be willing to go to get a for-sure franchise quarterback? So that's tough. TJ Watt, you want to trade TJ Watt for Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen? Gosh darn it. I really want that quarterback. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess if the price is right. I mean, you think about some of the craziest trades in NFL history that seem to work out one way or the other. Man, I don't know. It's just crazy. So I wouldn't trade TJ Watt unless it was for a king's ransom. I'm talking like a Herschel Walker type ransom. For those that don't know, go look it up. Go look it up, what the Cowboys traded Herschel Walker for. Crazy. Okay. that does it for me on this Wednesday podcast. On Friday, we'll be back for sure. We'll have Jeremy Jerome Betts on for hopefully another good conversation. I'll be back. We'll have our heart to heart. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out all of our podcasts on the Steel Curtain Network. And as we always finish it here on Let's Ride, be safe, be kind, and God bless. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Friday. Go Steelers.